Welcome to the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. You are now part of a small underground movement of dent technicians from all over the world. We are on a mission to change our industry with innovation, intelligence, and skill. But because we don't rely on an insurance company to steer customers our way, we need to do things different. We need to do things smarter. We do that through a network of technicians that we call the Tactical Tech Movement. Now let's get this revolution started. Hey, what's up, everybody? Here, Angela and John with the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast. How you guys doing today? We are late, aren't we?
Yep.
But we are still coming through. So it is literally 2:32 on Thursday, which is typically our main podcast drop day. However, there's a little storm that came through our area. And we've had a lot of phone calls about a little bit of hail damage here and there. Hopefully, like a lot of you guys as well. I'm sure a lot of people throughout the country. I think it was just the other night. Gosh, I mean, we had tornadoes that came through.
Wait a minute. How are you getting ready to say that?
I'm getting ready to say what?
The way you're getting ready to say tornadoes.
Tornadoes?
You had kind of like a
I have a lisp.
No, not a lisp.
I don't like it when I have a lisp.
You kind of put a twang on it.
Little tornado?
Yeah, there you go.
It's like when George Bush, instead of saying he would call a turbine a turbine, and then he would call when
he did.
When somebody actually wore a turban, he would call it a turbine.
Oh.
Got one of them there turbines on your head?
Oh.
Or then when he's seen a turbine, he'd say, "Well, look at that turban."
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
He must have been raised by my mom.
Oh my God.
She had her own language.
I think if people were able to meet Nidra, she's a very interesting woman. And
Pure savage.
Yes. And I think that people would probably get a giggle but be shocked at the same time.
Yeah. See, back when I was a kid, it was back when you mouthed off to your mama, you got your ass beat. And the last thing anybody wanted they wanted their ass beat by was her.
Yeah. I would say she was definitely one strong woman.
Yeah.
That was an individual that you did not really mess with.
I remember the one time my sister, I think, called her a bitch, and she went, 40 style boxing on her. And I mean, it was done. It was done. It was like WWF done went off in my living room. And it was my mom busting her ass, like literally diving off the edge of a couch with elbows and stuff like that. It was wild.
Oh, dear Lord.
It was pretty bad, honestly. But yeah, that's one person you didn't call that to. She beat your ass.
Yeah.
So anyhow, y'all, we came on the Tactical Dent Tech Podcast today to talk a little bit about kind of what we've been recently going through. And I would like to say, for lack of better words, that some of the hail damage happened in rough areas, okay? And anytime, hail damage happens in rough areas, you tend to get phone calls from people that are not our typical client or customer, okay?
Yeah.
And what we see with them clients and customers are a lot of things that I like to call red flags, okay? And basically, throughout the years, I mean, the motherfuckers used to get me back in the day,
Yeah.
But the more that you learn about business and the more that you learn about the value of your product and service, and then obviously the more established you become, you tend to see these time wasters, from a mile away.
Yeah.
And some of the first things that I get from these people, and usually when they specifically are trying to demand to come here and get an estimate written, because they say that their insurance company wanted me to write the estimate for them. Well, of course, one of the first things I ask is which insurance company, because it's very rarely nowadays that insurance companies actually ask an individual to go get their initial estimate written from a body shop that's not in their DRP network.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not going to ask them to come see me in that regard. So right off the bat, I'm like, red flag number one. And because, typically I've told you guys this before, I'm not in the estimate writing business, okay? I'm in the repair business. So when clients and customers come to me with a hail damaged vehicle, I give it a glance over and I give them an idea of what it's going to cost.
Yeah, and I think like another good thing is always to be asked like, are you going to be paying out of pocket or are you going to be submitting this through your insurance company?
Right, because as you guys know, right initially everybody's trying to get an idea, number one, if they have to pay out of pocket or if they're going to submit an insurance claim.
Yeah.
And I just tell people honestly, I'm like, I haven't seen your vehicle, but based on what you tell me, I've seen vehicles that came in with that type of damage that range from $2,000 to $4,000.
Yeah.
Or in a little more severe situations. I mean, I've told people that, most of the vehicles that look like that they cost over $10,000 to repair. And it just gives people an idea to file, they're going to have to file an insurance claim.
Yeah.
And, because like I had a guy called earlier, and I don't think this guy threw up any red flags, but he's like, man, I just need to know if it's going to be $500 or $5,000.
Yeah. Well, I think what it is like some people don't know, so they think that they need to get an estimate first. But then like a lot of times what it is when you say like, oh, here's the typical protocol, A, B, and C is going to happen, and that's it. Then they're like, oh, cool. But then you have like some customers, like I think you spoke with a gentleman yesterday, and he said that he owned a body shop or something, but then he was backyard
clearly full of shit.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what this guy wanted. I can tell you exactly what he wanted because I knew what he wanted after talking to him for, I don't know, I'd say probably, well, the first red flag was that he knew my friend Dennis Kelly, who lives around here. And Dennis Kelly comes to all of my events and stuff like that. And he's telling me that Dennis isn't calling him back. Red flag number one. There's a reason why Dennis isn't calling him back. Now, I didn't even call Dennis. I didn't talk to him about it, but I'm like, yeah, number one. And then just the guy's tone on his voice was he sounded like a fucking used car salesman. Like he was trying to sell me this idea of working with him to help get this thing resolved. And I'll tell you exactly what he wanted. He wanted me to write an estimate for him prior to the insurance adjuster coming out. So that way he had reference of what it should cost.
Yeah.
So that way when the insurance adjuster came out, he could argue his way through the estimate and get as much money as possible that he could put in his pocket and keep.
Yeah.
Because midway through the phone call, he starts telling me things like, some of these you can only see from certain angles and I'm really not worried about them. And, I'm just worried about the few of the big ones and all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, at the beginning of the phone call, you wanted to come and get a full blow written estimate.
Yeah.
Right. And look, I'm not into it. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't really write estimates. I handle claims. And I explain to these folks that to write a hail damage estimate takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, any of you guys who actually write a proper estimate, I mean, you really got to look it over very good. You got to get very technical with it as well.
Because basically, like those people that are throwing up them red flags, they're wasting our time and you messing with my money, keeping me from making money.
Right. And, I put a post recently in our group about this.
Take that shit somewhere else.
Yeah. And I put I put a post recently in our group about this, and the post actually, I don't remember the exactly what it said, but it to the nature of, look, I don't my value is not based on your budget. Okay. So the value that I bring to the table is not based on the client and customer's budget.
Yeah.
The value that I bring to the table is based on the way I feel, my self-value, okay? And during that post, I talked a lot about having faith. And, I know a lot of you guys are going to think I'm going to get religious on you, but faith is not necessarily, it's not a word owned by any specific religion. It's literally knowing, having a feeling inside, knowing that if you say no to this asshole, or if you turn something away, that something bigger and better is in store for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed everything for me. Because people who don't have faith, they think, this is their last chance.
Yeah.
This is the last time anybody's going to ever offer them money.
Yeah.
And you're literally, you're kind of, you have a bottom feed mentality.
That's true.
And I have this belief inside of my mind. I'm like, every time I take an individual like that, like an individual who I do not want to be my client and customer.
That's what you're going to attract more.
Yeah. And I say, every time that I say no to them and I turn away from them, I literally, every time I close that one door, I open up, like 2 doors just open up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like something bigger and better, but you got to pass that test, right?
Yeah.
And that's where faith comes in, because when you have faith that something bigger or better is in store, if you say no to this, magically, the shit is fucking magic.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It happens. And once you establish that belief, things begin to change. You begin to attract a different type of client, a different type of customer base, and you build something that is much better than building something based on the way, like literally, if you build a business based on cheapskates, when somebody comes along that's cheaper than you, they are going to leave you. There's no loyalty there.
Right.
The only reason they came on board with your company to begin with is because you were the cheapest.
Yeah.
So there's no loyalty there. They're not loyal people. They're
That's true.
not loyal clients. I want to build a relationship with clients. That's why I say clients now, okay? Now, for the longest time, I had this weird thing where I never wanted to say the word clients because I thought it was kind of gay. And I just didn't really understand what that meant, okay? Because a customer is a one-time interaction. A customer is that person that I'm talking about, right? It's a
Yeah.
one-time interaction. A client is a relationship.
Yep.
So you strive to build long-term relationships, and the only way that you're going to do that is with the right type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that you're going to connect with that right type of person is not allow the other type of people to take up all of your time,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I want to encourage, some of y'all out there, if you're in that, I've been there before. Trust me, I've been there before. I've been to the point to where, I just tried to work out a deal with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself wasting a lot of time, not making as much money. And I actually talked to somebody one time and I said, man, you got to double your prices. And the guy says, well, if I double my prices, I'll lose half my business.
Yeah.
And I said, but then you'll be making the same amount of money and you'll have twice the amount of time.
That's true.
So think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You double your prices, you lose half your business. It doesn't matter because you just doubled your prices.
Mm-hmm.
And you got rid of the cheapskates. You got rid of the people that you don't want to deal with anymore. And now you're making the same amount of money, but you have twice the amount of time to actually work on your business
Mm-hmm.
and to establish yourself with a better client base.
Yeah.
Right? What are you laughing about?
Oh, nothing. When you're talking about being cheap and whatnot, I'm thinking like, how far do you have to bend over then?
Right. So, that's the core message on today's podcast. We're not really going through too in depth on this podcast today. We've just got too much stuff going on currently.
Yeah.
And this week's been hectic with tornadoes that came through here. And everybody's been on this boil advisory and just...
It finally lifted, which is nice.
Yeah. And I'm booked out to what is today? Today's date. We're booked out a couple weeks solid.
Today's May 30th.
Yeah. So we're booked out actually over a couple weeks solid, currently. And now we're kind of trying to work in hail cars at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't
Gotta
know.
make that money.
Yeah, I don't know that this will be the most profitable storm just because of what I just told you. It hit some okay areas. We don't know how widespread that is yet because a tornado went through there.
Yeah.
But, the fact of the matter is, like, some of the areas it hit are just going to bring that type of client and customer that we quickly got to get to the meat and potatoes of the conversation. And we got to try to establish and find these red flags that pop up. I literally, I think somebody commented on the post that I put earlier, and they were like, you got to be real careful with just working with anybody, right? And you do, okay? So, like, in no means am I telling you on this podcast to be unprofessional to somebody who is a cheapskate, because, you say one thing wrong to one person, and they take it out of context, and literally they write you a bad review. Things like that destroy your business, but you do have to control the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And controlling the conversation is having a set protocol of exactly how you do things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just explain to them individuals and like, man, sorry, it takes a long time to write an entire hail damage estimate.
You can do it in a nice and polite way, but still get your point across.
Yeah, but still get your point across.
Yeah.
But what we can do, as soon as you get that insurance estimate, I'll be happy to check it in. And then at that point, I'll just go ahead and handle the claim. And I let them know right off the bat, man. I let them know. I'm like, on that initial estimate, they're probably going to give us some stuff to get started. So it's not like your car is going to be sitting around here doing nothing.
Yeah.
Just letting them know that we're getting started on their fucking car. No, they're not going to do that whole thing where I write the whole estimate and then they call me as soon as it's approved and tell me not to work on it.
Yeah.
You know, I let them know right up front that you drop your car off here, it's getting fucking fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And guess what? When I get that paperwork, it's going to have, I can take out these headlights. I can take out these tail lights. I can take out this headliner. Actually, just go ahead and do all the R&I if I can, if I got the room. I'll do all the R&I on that car. So when the adjuster gets here, I'm like, look, man, I don't have to bullshit with that. Like I had a guy a few weeks ago, just a dickhead. And I think I talked about that on the last podcast a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's asking me like, you know, it's literally
very bad energy when he walked in the door.
So literally on a Honda van roof, this guy wants to know exactly why I got to take the hatch off to fix the roof. And the roof's probably got 200 dents on it, all up in through the grates and all that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at him like, dude, how long have you been doing this? Really? You think I'm going to be able to fix the interior of the grates from the sides?
I guess
Do you think I would want to?
It would have been different if he would have came in and been like, hey, I'm the adjuster. This is new to me being out in the field and just had a couple questions. Oh, I see that you have a customer in here. I'll just go ahead and wait until you're done with their vehicle. And then
they would never do that. But
they don't do that?
No. Most adjusters, they just know their way around a fucking car, you know.
Well, if he
and
said
I was
new
literally
at it,
5 feet away from the guy. He could ask me any question he wanted, but
maybe
he wanted me to hold his hand through the whole
maybe
process.
he should have just said he was new at it, but he didn't have to come in with such bad energy.
Yeah, very bad attitude the guy had. We pretty much got what we wanted. I mean, he knocks off $500, and I'm like, man, I already expect that, you know. And most of the time they don't, but I'm like, I already expect that, whatever. We could have just ended the conversation. You could have said you wanted $500. And I said, okay, get the fuck out of here. Write the estimate.
Yeah.
But, the bottom line is the guy, and not only that, this guy tells me that some of the dents I pointed out were too small to be hail. Which is literally one of the dumbest things I've ever heard an adjuster say.
He just didn't know.
Yeah. So anyhow, long story short, he was what company was he from? Erie Insurance Company. Yeah, we've had some real weird ones come in from Erie. I do got to say that. I don't think in general they're a horrible insurance company, but I will say their adjusters on the automotive end of things are just a bunch of ass wipes.
So I have like a good tech tip for everybody. So at Bath and Body Works, they have a men's line now. And when John and I were in Bath and Body Works the last time, John was like, "Oh my God, this stuff smells so good."
It was called a teak wood.
And he's like, "Smell this." And so he got some lotion and he got some cologne. Well, one morning before we go to the gym, John is in the bathroom.
I just put the lotion on.
Rubbing himself down with the lotion. The next thing you know, he's like squirting the cologne like all over him.
No, I only did 2 spots.
And I was like, no, you did more than 2 spots. And I was just like, damn. I was like, you smell very, very strong. So we get to the gym and we're at Planet Fitness. And I mean, like, whether John's standing beside me, he's walking in front of me, he's walking behind me. Oh, Jonathan's here.
Yeah. So apparently I smelled like a French whore, but
he smelled like a French whore. And then any room that we went into, he was just like lighting it up on fire. I mean, it was just like, I think everybody knew that you were overly potent at that morning.
I think they all thought it was her for some reason.
No. Here, I'm going to go let Jonathan in real quick.
All right, everybody. So anyhow, we're going to bounce out of this podcast here. I'm going to let her off the hook and have her go let John in because I got to go put a door back on a car. So anyhow, y'all, we appreciate you. Stay away from the price shoppers. Build your business based on people that you want to create relationships with. Create clients, not customers. Anyhow, y'all, we appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you on that next one.